Hello everyone, welcome to the Viet History 360 channel. Today, we will continue to explore the history of the Vietnamese feudal period from 1225 to 1400. This era is considered the most powerful and renowned in Vietnamese feudal history due to the 3 times the Tran Dynasty defeated the Mongol Invaders, an army that was deemed the most formidable in the world at that time. Let's watch the entire video to see how the Tran Dynasty managed to defeat the Mongol army 3 times. At the beginning of the 13th century, in the north, Mongolia had a powerful military force based on notorious and ruthless cavalry. Genghis Khan and the Mongolian rulers conquered one nation after another, establishing a vast empire stretching from Asia to Europe. Everywhere the Mongolian cavalry went, they subjugated the locals. In 1253, the Dailai kingdom was attacked and annexed into the Yuan dynasty by Htt Lit. Eng Leng Hph Tai, a talented general, was assigned to govern this area. In 1257, Eng Leng Hph Tai commanded an invasion of Dai Viet to secure a route to attack the Song dynasty from the south. Underestimating Dai Viet as a small country, not with a military campaign, he sent an envoy to demand its surrender. Surprisingly, King Tran did not comply and imprisoned the envoy. The Tran Dynasty's army and people across the country prepared weapons and united with determination to resist the enemy. Eng Leng Hph Tai led around 50,000 cavalry, dividing them into 2 wings to advance on Dai Viet. After penetrating deep into Dai Viet, the 2 wings merged into one. King Tran Tai Tong, upon receiving this news, assembled 60,000 troops, including both naval and ground forces, to advance to Bin Le Nguyen. On January 17, 1258, the Mongol army clashed with the Dai Viet forces at Bin Le Nguyen in Vinh Phuc province. The Tran Dynasty's army deployed along the Thao River, with the Elephant Corps forming the front line to shield the infantry and cavalry behind them. King Tran positioned the navy along the Red River to ensure a safe retreat if they lost the battle. The 2 sides faced each other across a large river. The Mongol forces divided into 3 units to cross the river, intending to encircle and attack the Dai Viet forces and their navy. They aimed to seize the boats to cut off the Tran army's retreat. The main force, commanded by Nji Lu Ho Tai, launched a frontal assault. However, the plan did not go as expected because the 2nd unit encountered a Tran army ambush and immediately engaged in battle, forgetting their mission to seize the boats. Confused by the situation, Eng Leng Hph Tai hastily led the main army across the river, turning the primary force into a support unit. In the ensuing chaos, the Tran army initially had the upper hand, defeating many Mongol soldiers. Tran's massive elephant corps advanced in a horizontal line, shielding the troops behind them as they charged towards the Mongol. The Tran forces seized the opportunity and pressed their advantage. However, the Mongols soon discovered the elephants' weakness and shot arrows into their eyes, causing the elephants to panic and trample the Tran formations. King Tran Tai Tong continued to urge his soldiers on and personally fought fiercely in the battle. However, he and his generals were eventually separated into small groups and suffered heavy casualties. In that dangerous moment, King Tran found himself alone, surrounded on all sides by the formidable Mongol army. Looking around, he saw no one left alive. Suddenly, a single figure on horseback appeared, charging through the enemy ranks and cutting a bloody path to rescue the king. Amazingly, this brave warrior was a civilian official, Tan, who successfully saved the king. King Tran had to decide to abandon the battlefield to preserve his forces and wait for another opportunity. The Mongols pursued him to the Dai Viet's boat landing, aiming to capture the king alive. King Tran had to decide to abandon the battlefield to preserve his forces and wait for another opportunity. The Mongols pursued him to the Dai Viet's boat landing, aiming to capture the king alive. The Mongol cavalry continued to pursue along the riverbank, shooting arrows at the Tran fleet. Tan had to use wooden planks to shield King Tran from the arrows. The fleet traveled downstream to Phu Lo, destroying the Phu Lo Bridge and setting up a defensive line on the southern bank of the Ko Lo River to block the enemy. On January 18th, one day later, the two sides clashed again at Phu. The Mongols, seeing the shallow river, attempted to cross it with their cavalry. King Tran, realizing he could not hold the position, once again ordered a strategic retreat to Thang Long. He quickly organized the evacuation of civilians, who took their food supplies and hid in rural areas to preserve their strength. King Tran Tai Tong then sought advice from his younger brother on how to deal with the enemy. However, Commander Tran Not Hai Yu dipped his finger in water and wrote the characters for Enter Song, suggesting they flee to the Song territory for refuge. Disagreeing with this plan, King Tran Tai Tong consulted Grand Chancellor Tran Thu Du. When the king posed his question, Tran Thu Du responded, "As long as my head remains on my shoulders, your majesty should not worry. Despite the dire situation, all Tran officials and the king were determined to fight to the end." The Mongols, confident in a swift victory, advanced further into Dai Viet without bringing food supplies, believing they could seize provisions from conquered territories. However, upon capturing Thang Long, they found it deserted and soon faced a food shortage. Unable to capture King Tran, Engt Leng Hph Tai grew furious. Consequently, the Mongol forces did not dare to stay within Thang Long and instead set up camp at Dong Bo Do. The Tran Dynasty organized small guerrilla attacks, causing the Mongol troops to become exhausted, demoralized, and gradually lose their fighting spirit. This created the perfect opportunity for the Tran Dynasty to launch a counterattack. The Tran forces were divided into two wings. One wing moved overland to launch an initial strike, while the main force, led by King Tran Tai Tong and Crown Prince Tran Than Tong, traveled by water, moving upstream to land and attack. On the night of January 28, 1258, General Tran Can Do saw the opportunity had arrived. He ordered his troops to extinguish all torches and silently approach the enemy camp by both land and water. Then they launched a sudden attack, firing flaming arrows that set the enemy camp ablaze and caused many casualties. In the darkness, the surprised enemy was thrown into panic and could only flee. Faced with a severe defeat, Ng Lu Ho Tai ordered his troops to retreat quickly along the Thao River. During their retreat, they were further harassed and attacked by the combined forces of the people of Dai Viet and Dai Lai, suffering additional losses. The first resistance against the Mongol invaders was a complete victory. King Tran Tai Tong, a kind and virtuous ruler, was highly respected by the people and his court. In 1258, Tran Tai Tong abdicated the throne in favor of his son, Crown Prince Tran Than Tong, and became the retired emperor. After the Mongols had conquered the Song dynasty, they aimed to invade Dai Viet for the second time. The Mongol king wanted to use diplomatic means to subjugate King Tran to avoid military conflict, but King Tran refused to submit. In 1277, King Tran Tai Tieng, who had ruled for 33 years and been emperor for 19 years, passed away at the age of 60. In 1278, King Tran Tai Tieng abdicated the throne to the crown prince, who became King Tran Tai Tieng. In 1282, upon learning of the Yuan's intentions, King Tran convened a military conference at Bin, then to discuss national defense strategies. Tran Hung Dao was appointed as commander-in-chief, overseeing all armed forces of Dai Viet. Tran Quoc Ton, a young man in the Tran Dynasty royal family, was too young to attend the conference, so he was angry and crushed an orange. He wanted to join the fight to protect the country, and built warships inscribing the words Phcng Bohoang N, destroy the enemy, repay the emperor's grace on his flag, awaiting the day to march into battle. In February 1284, retired Emperor Tran Than Tong summoned respected elders from across the country to the Dean Hong Hall in the capital, Thang Long. When asked by the king if they should fight the Yuan again, the elders unanimously responded with a resounding fight. This demonstrated the strong fighting spirit and determination of the Tran Dynasty's court and military to defend their homeland. In early 1285, having completed his preparations, Kublai Khan sent his son, Thoat Hone, to lead 500,000 troops to attack Dai Viet for the second time. The Yuan army divided into 3 routes to advance towards Ai Viet. One route, consisting of 100,000 troops, invaded Kiam Than and advanced from the south. The second route, with 20,000 infantry troops from Yunnan province, advanced by land along the Che River from China. The third route, also with 20,000 troops led by Thoat Hone, advanced to Ai Nam Quan. Kwok Kong Tran Hung Dao led a surprise attack against the main force of the enemy. To the northwest, Tran Nut Duat deployed troops to block Yuan forces advancing from the south. Meanwhile, Tai Su Tran Quang Kai personally commanded a military detachment to guard the Ng and Ha Tin region and block the Yuan army's northern offensive. On January 27, 1285, Tran Hung Dao divided his troops to defend the Ka Lai and Kai Lang bases while he himself defended the Noi Bang base. Thoat Hone divided his troops to attack and quickly passed these passes, then advanced deep into Dai Viet to surround the Noi Bang base. Faced with the strength of the Yuan army, the Tran forces were successively defeated. Tran Hung Dao then withdrew to Van Keep to regroup his forces. There, Tran Hung Dao wrote the Hich Tuong Si to boost the morale of his troops, inspiring patriotism and determination for battle. This advice spurred the soldiers to train diligently and prepare for combat. After capturing the passes, Thoat Hone advanced to Van Keep. The Tran Dynasty forces had to retreat once again to Thang Long. The Yuan army regrouped and established a camp along the Red River. Meanwhile, the Tran forces built wooden fortifications on the northern bank of the Red River to block the Yuan advance, while also ensuring the timely evacuation of the royal family and civilians from the capital. Implementing the empty fort strategy, they burned down villages and fields near the capital, leaving no supplies behind. Afterward, the Tran Dynasty forces withdrew to Phu Thien Trong and Nam Dinh to conserve their strength. Thoat Hone easily entered Thang Long, but found it deserted and immediately sent Mni to pursue the Tran forces. At the same time, the Second Yuan Mongol army moved along the river and advanced into Dai Viet, only to be confronted and fought by Tran Nhat Duat's troops. Unable to counterattack, Tran Nhat Duat withdrew his troops along both sides of the river. The Yuan Mongol army divided to intercept their retreat, prompting Tran Nhat Duat to order abandoning ships and withdrawing safely to Bach Hak. By February 20, 1285, they regrouped with the main Tran Dynasty army. Mni commanded the pursuit of the Tran forces to Dai Mak Beach in Thien Trong. Tran troops under Tran Bin Trong's command fiercely fought the Yuan forces to give King Tran time to safely retreat. After nearly a week of battle, Tran Bin Trong was defeated and captured on February 24, 1285. Recognizing his talent, the Yuan forces tried to persuade Tran Bin Trong to serve them by offering him the title of Northern King, but he defiantly replied, "I'd rather be a ghost in the south than a king in the north." Unable to convince him, the Yuan forces executed him. For a month, the Yuan Mongol army had been unable to defeat the Tran Dynasty. Thoat Hone grew increasingly anxious because his forces were thinly spread to guard the captured territories and had to transport supplies back to Thang Long. In March 1285, the Tran Dynasty recognized that the Yuan Mongol army was weakened and suffering from shortages, and their soldiers were exhausted. Therefore, they promptly launched a counterattack. Personally commanding the navy, Tran Hung Dao led his fleet up the Taiban River to attack Van Keep. Exploiting their knowledge of the river terrain and utilizing surprise tactics, the Tran forces easily took control of Van Keep. They coordinated with border defense units in the east to simultaneously capture Yuan Mongol outposts, severing their supply lines. Thoat Hone, uncertain and hesitant to attack Van Keep, divided his forces to guard the outskirts while waiting for reinforcements from Toa Du, a Yuan commander leading the Third Army branch. Toa Du had crossed the sea to attack Chim Than, but encountered resistance as the Chim forces held onto critical areas. Unable to make headway, Toa Du received orders to redirect and attack Dai Viet. In March 1285, Toa Yi's expeditionary force from the south launched an attack on Dai Viet. General Tran Ent Dut received orders to deploy his troops and coordinate with southern garrisons to intercept Toa's advance. Their goal was to prevent the Yuan-Mongol forces from consolidating their strength. Toa quickly defeated Tran's bases on the way to attack. While the whole country was focusing on fighting the enemy, Tran Thien betrayed the country. He led his soldiers to surrender to Toa and showed Toa the way to advance to Thang Long. With the help of Tran Thien, Toa quickly captured Nghi An and Than Hoa provinces. On March 13, 1285, Tran Quang Kai's army advanced to Than Hoa, but was defeated by Toa's army and forced to retreat to Thien Trong. Toa held a tactical advantage, but their supplies were running low, and their soldiers were weary from prolonged combat. Toa decided to halt further engagements in the surrounding regions, and swiftly withdrew towards Thang Long to regroup with Thoat Hone. King Tran Nan Tong led his troops along the Red River to recapture Thang Long before Toa could arrive. On the 10th day of March 1285, the Tran and Yuan armies clashed in a major battle. The Tran forces were eventually pushed back to Thien Trong. Tran Hung Dao, stationed at Van Keep, hastily led his troops to reinforce Thien Trong upon hearing the news. Meanwhile, Thoat Hone mobilized all his forces to organize a sweeping pursuit along the coastal regions. By this time, Toa's naval forces had joined, increasing their overall strength. Faced with this critical situation, King Tran urgently sent emissaries with Princess Ntu to propose marriage to Thoat Hone. This move briefly lowered Thoat Hone's guard, enabling Tran Hung Dao to use boats to evacuate the Tran royal family from Thien Trong. Upon learning that King Tran had entered Than Hoa, Thoat Hone dispatched Omani and Toa to pursue King Tran. Upon arrival, they were blocked and engaged in battle by Tran Quang's forces for several days. As their supplies dwindled and their troops grew weary, Toa and Omani withdrew to Thang Long. Seizing the opportunity, King Tran Nan Tong ordered Tran Nhat Duat north to confront Toa at Ham Tu, where both sides fiercely clashed. The Tran forces employed a stratagem of firing arrows with notes attached, declaring, "Fight the Tatars Mongols, not the Chinese." This caused the Chinese soldiers fighting for the Yuan to hesitate, lose morale, and defect to the Tran side. Tran Quoc Ton and Pham Ngu Lao led their troops from Than Hoa along the coastal route to the Chuang Duong Wharf, where they directly attacked the Yuan fleet. Unable to withstand the assault, the Yuan forces fled. The Tran forces pursued them to the outskirts of Thang Long, where they set up camp. Thoat Hone's attempt to counterattack was thwarted by Tran Quang Kai, forcing him to abandon Thang Long and retreat northward. Tran Quoc Ton and Pham Ngu Lao led their troops from Than Hoa along the coastal route to the Chuang Duong Wharf, where they directly attacked the Yuan fleet. Unable to withstand the assault, the Yuan forces fled. The Tran forces pursued them to the outskirts of Thang Long, where they set up camp. Thoat Hone's attempt to counterattack was thwarted by Tran Quang Kai, forcing him to abandon Thang Long and retreat northward. Meanwhile, Thoat Hone sought refuge at Vinh Bin Camp, but was relentlessly attacked by Tran's archers, forcing him to flee back across the border, hiding in a copper tube to escape. Toa and Omani gathered their troops in the west, but on June 24, 1285, they were surrounded by Tran's forces and suffered heavy casualties. Toa died in battle, while Omani managed to escape to the sea. The Mongol forces in the south also attempted to retreat, but were relentlessly pursued and decimated by the Dai Viet people. During the months from December 1284 to June 1285, the Dai Viet army, for the second time, successfully expelled the 5,000 strong Mongol forces, firmly securing their territory. Under the leadership of Kings Tran Than Tong and Tran Nan Tong, along with the skilled general Tran Hung Dao, they inspired loyalty and unity among their troops. Soldiers and commanders alike devoted themselves wholeheartedly to defending their homeland. Htt Lit, upon learning of his son's defeat in battle, returned home in great anger. He halted the campaign against Japan and concentrated forces to prepare for the third invasion of Ivat. He ordered soldiers to prepare a large fleet of boats. In early 1286, King Tran returned 5,000 yuan soldiers as a gesture of goodwill. However, this gesture did not quell the ambitions and animosity of the Yuan Mongols. Ivit's forces were not concerned, but rather prepared vigorously. The Tran court devised plans to recruit and train a large army of around 32,000 soldiers. In February 1287, the Yuan court dispatched Tho Thi Hone with over 300,000 soldiers for the third invasion of the southern lands. Tho Thi Hone divided his forces into 3 wings to attack Ivit. The first wing advanced via the Vietnam route towards the Thao River and El River. The second wing, led by Tho Thi Hone himself, moved towards the northeast border. The third wing consisted of a naval force of 500 warships commanded by Mni, advancing via the sea route. On December 29, 1287, the main force commanded by Tho Thi Hone advanced into Ivit. Afterwards, it divided into 3 teams and easily conquered various northern bases because the Tran Dynasty had strategically deployed only small forces to engage and wear down the enemy, awaiting the right opportunity. Upon reaching Vien Kip, Tho Thi Hone encountered a major battle led by Tran Hggo, who blocked the Yuan Mongols' advance. Tho Thi Hone, this time, did not prioritize capturing Thang Long, but instead halted at Vien Kip to await the convergence of his forces for a major battle. On December 20, 1287, Mni led his naval forces into Ivit via the sea. However, they moved too quickly, leaving their supply ships behind. Mni's superior strength successively defeated the obstacles posed by the Tran naval forces, advancing through the gate of the Bchang River to rendezvous with Tho Thi Hone's army. In January 1288, Tho Thi Hone's army attacked Tran Hggo at Vien Kip. The Tran forces engaged while withdrawing towards Thang Long. Tho Thi Hone established his camp here and conducted operations in the surrounding areas to secure Thang Long. In defense of Thang Long, Tran Hggo deployed his troops in new defensive positions outside the city walls. Meanwhile, a Mongol Yuan wing from the northwest, commanded by Il, advanced into Ivit. Upon reaching Bchhc, they clashed with Tran and Dut. The Ivit forces were in a weakened position and had to retreat to Ph Leng. 2 Tran generals were killed in this battle. On January 21, 1288, the naval forces of the Yuan army coordinated an attack on Tran's base on the Yung River. Tran Hggo's forces fought while retreating towards the capital Thang Long, but they were still overwhelmed by the Yuan forces. Tran Hggo then ordered both his troops and civilians to evacuate Thang Long via the river route. However, they were pursued by Mni, forcing Tran to split his forces into 2 groups to divert the pursuing Yuan Mongol army. Mni, with fewer troops, reached Than Ho and encountered a larger Tran force. Thus, he had to retreat. Simultaneously, Tho Thi Hone from Gia Elm led his army to quickly cross the river and swiftly captured Thang Long. However, as in the previous 2 attempts, the city was already empty and abandoned. In February 1288, Tran Candu, stationed at Vietnam Bay, continued to ambush the Yuan naval forces. Thinking that Mni's troops had cleared the way ahead, Tran Vien H ordered his fleet to advance slowly towards H Long Bay. When they arrived at Vietnam, they were suddenly attacked by Tran Candu's forces, catching the Yuan Mongols off guard. The Leng fleet was sunk, resulting in heavy casualties among the soldiers who drowned. Fortunately, Tran Vien H managed to escape back to the waters of Kanshu, near Hainan Island. On February 10, 1288, Mni arrived at Dai Bang Sea, but encountered the naval forces of Ivit, led by Tran Hggo. The Ivit forces, taking the initiative, managed to inflict significant losses on the Yuan forces. Seeing the strong resistance, the Tran army decided to retreat. Mni's fleet continued to search for the supply ships but found nothing. After capturing Thang Long, Tho Thi Hone faced constant harassment and attacks from the Ivit populace day and night. With their supplies exhausted and no news from Mni, Tho Thi Hone decided to return to Vien Kip. Mni waited for the supply ships for nearly a month without success, and by March 1288, he had to return via Bch Eng estuary back to their base at Vien Kip. By this time, the military strength of the Tran Dynasty had solidified. King Tran also arrived at Trsi Eng to meet with Tran Hggo. Upon learning that Tho Thi Hon had sent a BTX to attack, the Yuan forces approached Trsi Eng and clashed with Tran Nan Ting's army, but failed to achieve victory, forcing them to retreat to Vien Kip. By the end of March 1288, the Yuan-controlled areas were gradually shrinking back to Vien Kip due to the relentless pressure from the Tran forces. Amidst dwindling supplies and worsening seasonal conditions, Tho Thi Hon perceived the unfavorable situation and ordered his troops to withdraw back to their homeland via both land and sea routes. On March 30, 1288, Ni led his naval forces homeward through the Bch Eng estuary towards the sea. He also deployed an additional infantry unit along the riverbank to protect the convoy. However, upon reaching Eng Triu, they had to turn back as the bridge had been destroyed. Continuing downstream, Ni proceeded straight along the Bch Eng River towards the sea. Knowing this, Tran Hggo and his entire army planned a decisive battle. King Tran Nan Tieng ordered continuous archery and attacks on the Yuan troops along their route from Vien Kip to Bch Eng. Simultaneously, Tran Hggo utilized the tide movements to strategically deploy numerous sharp stakes under the riverbed. On April 8, 1288, Ni arrived at the confluence of the Bch and Gi rivers. He directed his troops towards the Gi River to scout the Tran forces. However, Ivit had stationed a large force here to intercept and attack, forcing the Yuan troops to adhere to the route set by the Tran Dynasty. Developing reinforcements at Gi River, the Yuan army continued to advance straight along the Bach River. On April 9, 1288, when the Yuan ships arrived, the tide was high. Tran Hung Dao deployed small boats to slow down the time, waiting for the tide to go down, then pretended to retreat in the direction where the stakes were planted. Seeing this, Ni immediately ordered the entire army to chase. By this time, the tide was receding rapidly, making it easier for the small Tran fleet to navigate through the stakes. Meanwhile, the pursuing Yuan fleet, in their relentless pursuit, got entangled in the stakes, and many of their ships were wrecked and sank. It was precisely at this moment that the Tran forces issued the order for a total attack. The Tran army, both naval and ground forces, launched a fierce and sudden onslaught on the Yuan Mongols. They swiftly surrounded them, and in no time, the Bach Dang River turned into a sea of flames. The Yuan army's warships were stuck on the stakes one after another, unable to move, causing congestion and chaos. Many Yuan soldiers panicked and jumped into the water, leading to many drownings. The Tran army fought very fiercely. This great battle caused many casualties. Blood dyed a large section of the river red. Ni was captured alive, marking the end of the Yuan invasion in the Battle of Bach Dang. The Yuan army's losses: 6,000 soldiers were killed or captured. Nearly 400 warships were confiscated by the Tran Dynasty, and more than 100 large warships were sunk. On the Dai Viet side, about 5,000 soldiers and a number of warships were lost. The Battle of Bach Dang is considered one of the largest battles recorded in history. The day before, on April 8, 1288, Tho Hon had split his forces into two directions to retreat through mountainous paths back to their homeland. One wing led east, while Tho Hon himself led the western wing. Upon reaching Kai Lang and Noi Bang, both routes were blocked and attacked by Dai Viet forces, forcing Tho Hon's forces to regroup. The third invasion of Dai Viet officially ended. Tho Hon was expelled from the court after returning home by Kublai Khan. Ni was released by the Tran Dynasty, but drowned on the way because his boat had an accident. Although Dai Viet was a victorious country, it also suffered many heavy losses with the hope that the two countries would have peace and extinguish the fire of war. As a result, some time later, Dai Viet continued to send tributes and valuable goods to the Yuan dynasty for reconciliation, avoiding further conflicts. However, Hott Lit still wanted to send troops to seek revenge. He died in 1294 while preparing to launch the fourth invasion against Dai Viet. His son ascended the throne and abandoned the idea of attacking Dai Viet. The Tran Dynasty's 3 victories over the Yuan Mongol army successfully defended the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Dai Viet, demonstrating the courage and cunning of the Dai Viet people against a powerful empire. In 1290, Tran Than Tieng passed away after ruling for 21 years and serving as the retired emperor for 13 years at the age of 51. In 1293, Emperor Tran Nan Tieng abdicated in favor of Crown Prince Tran and Tieng. During this time, the king and his officials were loyal and talented, leading to stability and development in the country. Tran Nan Tieng later became a monk and became the founder of the Dersi Elm Yn Zen sect, which left a remarkable imprint in the intellectual history of Vietnam. He is revered as a great philosopher of Buddhism, contributing significantly to the flourishing development of Buddhist philosophy in Vietnam, showcasing the full intellectual prowess and spiritual depth of the Vietnamese people. In 1299, Tran Nan Tieng entered monastic life at Ynt Pagoda, Mount Ynt, Cung Ninh. He was posthumously honored as the Buddhist emperor Tran Nan Tieng. He passed away there in 1308 at the age of 50. In 1300, Hggo Vinh Grand Prince of Hggo Tran Cuc Tun passed away at the age of 74. He was one of Vietnam's foremost generals who fought against the Yuan Mongol invaders. He played a pivotal role in defending the nation and was posthumously conferred the title Thang Cuc Sieng Senior National Duke, BNHBCI Nui N, So I Great Marshal pacifying the North, and Hggo I Vinh Grand Prince of Hggo. Tran Hggo was wholeheartedly devoted to the king and the country. Despite his illustrious military power, he remained humble and dutiful in his official position, never arrogant. 1306, the king of Kampa asked for the daughter of King Tran An Tong's hand in marriage. Taking the land of 2 provinces as dowry, Dai Viet was expanded to the south. In 1314, Tran An Tieng abdicated the throne to his crown prince and assumed the title of I Thang Ho Eng. He passed away in 1320 at the age of 54, having ruled for 21 years, including 6 years as an abdicated monarch. The crown prince ascended the throne as king, becoming Tran Minh Tieng. Minh Tieng was known for his benevolence and care for the people, and his reign brought peace and stability to the country, with his officials being talented and virtuous, ensuring internal tranquility. In 1318, Tran Minh Tong was king until 1329, when he abdicated to Crown Prince Vuong and became the retired emperor. Crown Prince Vuong was only 10 years old, so he became king. That is Tran Hien Tong. During Hien Ting's reign, real power remained with his father, Emperor Minh Tieng. Although Hien Tieng reigned for 13 years, he did not have full autonomy in governing the country. During this period, neighboring countries still frequently sent troops to invade, but they were consistently defeated by the Tran Dynasty. Hien Tieng passed away in 1341, after ruling for only 13 years at the age of 23. As he had no children, Tran Minh Tieng appointed his younger brother, named Hao, as the new king, known as Tran Du Tieng. However, real power remained with Emperor Minh Tieng, who ruled decisively. In 1358, Emperor Tran Minh Tieng passed away, marking the succession of 5 monarchs within just 40 years. During this turbulent period, loyal and capable officials were scarce. Natural disasters and famine plagued the land, exacerbating the suffering of the people, while bandits and rebels emerged everywhere, causing widespread chaos and misery. In 1372, Emperor Tran Ngh Tieng abdicated in favor of his younger brother, Tran Du Tieng. Though Du Tieng ascended as Thai Thang Ho Eng, he retained all political power in his own hands and was known for his decisive leadership compared to his elder brother. In 1377, Kampa forces led by King Che Man attacked Viet, intent on conquest. Tran Du Tieng, determined to defend his realm, personally led his troops into battle, but tragically fell in combat at the age of 40. King Che Man's forces invaded Thang Long Hanoi 3 times, exploiting internal divisions and the weakening power of the Tran Dynasty, exacerbated by corruption among its officials. Tran Ng Tong made Tran Du Tong's son, Tran Fei Di, king. But he always blindly trusted Ho Kwai Lai in everything. Later, because he believed the words of the treacherous Mandarin Ho Kwai Lai, he killed King Tran Fei Di and made Tran Thuan Tong, Ho Kwai Lai's son-in-law, king. However, the internal turmoil continued. Ku Lai, taking advantage of his position and the trust of the emperor, orchestrated purges that eliminated many loyal officials, consolidating his own power. However, the internal turmoil continued. Ku Lai, taking advantage of his position and the trust of the emperor, orchestrated purges that eliminated many loyal officials, consolidating his own power. In 1394, Tran Ng Tong died. He was a weak and unwise king, believing in traitors who killed loyal ministers and their descendants. This weakened the Tran dynasty. Le Kwai Lai plotted to kill his son-in-law, Tran Thuan Tong, and then made his 3-year-old grandson, Tran Thieu Di, king. In 1400, Ho Kwai Lai usurped the throne from his grandson, Tran Thieu Di, and proclaimed himself king, founding the Ho dynasty, naming the country Dai Ngu. Thus, the Tran dynasty ended. During 175 years, the Tran dynasty passed the throne for 12 generations. It was a prosperous era of Dai Viet. Politics was revised with many laws, education was emphasized, and people's lives were peaceful for many years. The kings and military generals were known for their talent and integrity. Particularly notable were the 3 victories against the Yuan Mongol forces, securing the nation's territory and even expanding it by acquiring Kampa territory. This was the only dynasty that did not bow to China's suzerainty, making significant contributions to the historical development of the Vietnamese people. However, it's notable that this dynasty often engaged in intra-dynastic marriages to safeguard the throne. Every dynasty has its ups and downs. That's like a rule. What do you think about the military talent of one of the 10 greatest generals in human history, named Hggoi Vinh Tran Kuk Tun? Use the few to fight the many. Use the weak to defeat the strong. Leave your thoughts below the video. In the next video, we will find out what happened after the Tran dynasty ended, what happened to Vietnamese feudal history. If you like it, please like and share. Don't forget to register your account and ring the bell so you don't miss out on the next interesting content. See you in the next video. Thank you.